Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. My name is Midway and today we are once again checking out some Age of Origins. This time around we're gonna be talking about how to upgrade your city. Now the very basic of the game, if you've played this game for a little while now, is basically gonna be to level up your city, to upgrade the different buildings that you can find in here, and also unlock new spaces that you can build stuff into on your city as you are progressing in the game. So now there's different ways of approaching this, and there's different ways of speeding up the process of you building up your city, and focusing on the right kind of buildings will really get you a long way getting in that direction. So if you want to be min-maxing and basically building your city as quickly as possible to get the most out of it in terms of being able to be strong and build up your combat power and also build up your army and such, then you will want to be doing the following. So now, of course, the most important building in your whole city is going to be your main hall. Your main hall is going to give you some important bonuses, namely some gather speed bonuses. So the bigger the effect of this buff is going to be, the more resources you will get. That's basically very obvious. But it's also going to give you a lot of combat power or battle power as you are upgrading your main hall. And it's also going to be the building that's going to determine what the max level of all the other buildings is going to be. So if your main hall is level 24, like mine right here, then any other building can only go all the way up to level 24. That's gonna be the cap until you build up your main hall higher level. So the main hall is also going to be unlocking some special things in the game as you progress through it. So you will need to upgrade your main hall to, for example, get more fleet slots. That's going to be pretty important if you want to be doing more stuff with your army. It's going to also allow you to appoint new officers as you reach higher levels. This in this case being commander level, but it's also going to be unlocking, for example, the possibility of having a second titan and sending that second titan into battle along with the rest of your army in any individual attack. And you will also unlock things like, for example, eventually you will be able to get the warship, you will be able to get more warship slots, as you can see here, city level 27, 30, and eventually you will also be able to unlock this one building right here, which personally I do not know what that even is. So it's very important to get your main hall leveled up. Now once you get into it, you're gonna realize that every time you try and level up the main hall, it's gonna give you different types of requirements. That's always gonna be included the city wall, which is gonna be your defenses. The main focus of your city defenses is gonna be the city wall. That's always gonna be a requirement for you to level up the city hall to the next level. That is gonna be to have the city walls at the same level as city hall is at the moment. And then you're gonna have a random requirement. In this case, it was a depot to be at the same level. So it's kind of gonna try and keep some of the other buildings in par with your level. So what you're gonna be doing is always focusing on this right here. Always trying to focus on leveling up the city hall first. And for that, you will need to have these requirements fulfilled as soon as you can. So focus on those things. The city wall will always be very important because of that reason. It's always gonna be a requirement. And then whatever other building is gonna be required, then you wanna be doing that. Now you can't just go ahead and go ham on focusing on the city hall, because eventually you will just have other buildings that you also want to be doing and focusing on, and those will just end up falling very far behind if you do not put any time and resources into them. So you also want to be leveling up the different kinds of other buildings, just because they will also give you some very important perks. Obviously, if you want to play this game in any capacity, you're gonna have to want to put a lot of time and resources into upgrading your barracks, those being your camps, your factories, and of course also your workshops. So keeping those up to date is gonna be important, just because you're gonna need some troops, so you will most definitely want to keep those upgraded. However, these buildings are only relevant in levels when you are thinking about unlocking a new kind of troop. Now we talked in the previous video about what troops you want to be training, so look at that video, watch that video if you are still not yet sure about how to train and focus on training specific troops. But it's only going to really become relevant to have a different level of your barracks and of all the different kinds of barracks when you are able to unlock a new tier of the right troop that you want. Obviously, this is also going to increase the amount of troops you can recruit in these types of buildings, but nonetheless, all the important stuff about the barracks is going to be to unlock that new level. Something that's going to be very important as well is going to be the academy. Keeping the academy up to date will allow you to do, obviously going to get a lot of buffs here out of the academy, but that's going to come from being able to do the research, that you are going to need some city levels and some academy, at the actual academy building level to be up and high so that you can keep on training some of these very important perks. So for example here, training my long range weapons, I would need to have my academy a little bit higher level, which I don't right now, so that's why you want to be keeping up with your academy. If you're focusing on the military side of things, that is, then obviously you will want to rush some of this stuff, but if you're spreading things out, then you might want to be chilling a little bit more on the academy levels, because then you're gonna have lower requirements to upgrade the different perks. However, I do not recommend to focus on spreading out the different types of perks and upgrades. I would rather go ham on one thing, like for example I'm doing here on my military side of things. And if you are struggling with getting resources for your city upgrades and you don't want to spend any money on this game, buying stuff off of the marketplace, then you will eventually need to set up some farms, and those farms will be the actual ones that are going to be focusing with these perks, with the resource gathering perks. So those will be the ones where you want to be focusing on this side of things, on the research, and also on the kind of buildings you're building up here. We'll talk about the buildings for the resource gathering in a minute, but now one thing that's got to be very clear at this point is that if you really want to be playing this game in any sort of capacity, in any sort of serious way, and you want to put some time and money into it, then most definitely gonna need some farms. Those farms will be the ones dedicated to gathering the resources for you, so you will be focusing on upgrading and getting the perks of everything that's going to increase the resource gathering on those farms. Ideally specific types of resources for specific types of cities, so for example oil for a city, food for a city, and maybe those two in one city, and maybe you can have two farms, maybe you can have more, but then focusing on specific types of resources will greatly increase the amount of that kind of resource you get out of that city. And then of course pairing that together with the commander skills for development is really going to increase your resource output and gonna let you and allow you a lot more freely to focus on upgrading the military side of things, which is the fun side of things on this game, on your main city. So I briefly mentioned focusing on the different types of resource gathering buildings. Now in your main city, as I'm mentioning, you don't really want to have that many resource gathering buildings. In fact, I have very little of them. I think I only have 4 farms, 4 oil refineries, and then I have as many medic stations as I can. I have as many training grounds as I can, and then I have about 4 mineral mines, if not 6, if I don't count them wrong, and then also some steel mills. But the main focus here is going to be on the actual utilities that you can get from medic stations, because medic stations are going to allow you to get more wounded limit. It's going to increase the limit of wounded units you can get, so that you don't lose that many units, and then they go to the hospital, and you can then of course bring them back. Same thing is going to happen with the training grounds. It's going to give you the buff of increasing recruitment speed and increasing the amount of units you can recruit on your barracks, and therefore those types of units are going to be crucial if you want to be playing this game in the PvP side of things, as well as the PvE of course, but most important the PvP side of things in any sort of relevant way, and focusing on it as your main goal in this game. So you don't really want to focus on basically upgrading your resource gathering buildings. You just want to have as many as you are allowed to, but as soon as you can, switch away from the farms, switch away from the oil refineries, put in some of the other more utilitarian buildings like the medic stations and training grounds, max out on those, and eventually once you are able to put all the steel mills and the mineral mines, keep on replacing some of the farms and the oil refineries, so you can make space for the more important resources, which are gonna be a lot more scarce. Now, something that's going to be pretty important as well, but not too much. As you can see, I'm not really putting too many levels on these buildings, is going to be to keep up my houses leveled up, just so I can have my refugee limit boosted up. That way, once I raid the ruins, I can increase my prosperity level and get some pretty good buffs out of that by having a lot of refugees in my city. So keeping these buildings up and having a lot of refugees is going to increase those buffs, and therefore making your city stronger. But don't focus too much on that. It is important, but you'd rather focus on upgrading the other stuff that's more important. That's going to be, of course, your military side of things, your perks from your academy, and of course your main city hall. Now, other things that are going to be extremely important is going to be the garage, which is going to increase your fleet unit limit, basically allowing you to send bigger amounts of troops in any individual given attack, and therefore just amounting your army to be just stronger in any individual attack, and therefore increasing the level excuse me, of your garage is going to be extremely crucial. You will also allow yourself to gather, or rather research, higher levels of the perks that you can get out of the garage, which are all going to be pretty handy, and therefore really important to keep up with the garage level. In terms of other buildings, I mentioned briefly the hospital is really important as well if you're going to be focusing on PvP, because it's going to allow to have more wounded units coming to there. It's also going to increase the healing speed, and therefore you can just keep on playing faster and faster. But I think that's pretty much about all the very important buildings that you really want to be keeping up with. As I mentioned, really important, do not really stress out and focus too much on building the resource gathering side of things. I stress it again, if you really want to be putting some time and money into this game and taking it in any sort of way seriously, or you really enjoy it and you want to keep playing and being efficient with it, you should really invest in farms and try to not focus on researching any perks for resource gathering on your main city. Do that on your farms and invest everything into your military side of things on your main base, and therefore do not put farms and do not put oil refineries here. Just try and focus on the utilitarian side of things with these little small buildings. Everything else, just try and keep up with whatever the requirements for upgrading the main hull are going to be, and just focus on the buildings we talked about, the academy, the barracks, and the garage as the main focuses, as well as the hospitals, and then the medic stations and training grounds. Those are really important buildings, as we mentioned, of course, as together with whatever the requirements are for the main hull to be upgraded. And I think that's really about it. If you really enjoyed the video and you want to try out this game, Age of Origins, please go ahead and click the link down in the description to download it, and use the code Midway if you want to get some free perks, and you created your account after I did mine, so you should be fine if you're just creating your account after watching this video. And in any case, I'm enjoying the video. Let me know any questions you might have down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, see ya.